2 days, I slogged as a farmhand at this coffee plantation in Lampung, Sumatra, Indonesia. This is one of the largest coffee growing regions in the country. Why am I doing this? Well, there's a good reason.
Tarik.
I need to perk me up every morning. And while this cup of coffee tastes the same, it no longer costs the same. Compared to 2022, the average price of a cup of local kopi, traditional coffee with milk, now costs 7% more. While that is only about 10 Singapore cents, if you track the price trajectory over the last 10 years, compared to 2014, the price of coffee now costs 26% more. This hike surpasses the increase in the cost of rice, sugar, and cooking oil during the same 10-year period. The figures are based on the Consumer Price Index, which is a measurement of inflation.
So in this episode, I want to find out why the price of coffee is increasing faster than the other daily items I consume, and what's driving this rise in inflation.
I'm at the warehouse of one of the biggest local coffee traders in Singapore.
Hey Steve, this is all coffee from Indonesia, all Indonesian Robusta.
This is how our coffee arrives in Singapore, as green unroasted beans, packed into jute bags.
Most of our coffees come from Indonesia, in particular the Robusta. That is what our local coffee culture is, where we drink a lot more Robusta coffee.
Or at the coffee shops
Yes,
and all
the
that, that
coffee
will be
shops.
largely
Yes,
Robusta.
yes. Supplies from Indonesia, it's down.
I wrote in to Indonesia's Ministry of Agriculture. I want to know what Indonesia's coffee production was like in the last few decades. Their figures actually show that total coffee production increased by about 23% between 2014 and 2022. But they are expecting a fall in production of 0.6% between 2022 and 2023.
Prices have stabilized around $200, but in the last 4 or 5 months, we've seen the Robusta prices in Indonesia move very drastically. It's now around $240 a 60 kilo bag.
Wow, 240 for two
Two
bags
of
of these.
Yes, yes.
From 180 to 200 to 240, all in the span of about a year
About
only.
a year, yes.
That's
yes,
a lot.
Yes, this is all mainly due to climatic conditions.
So in other words, the extremes in weather making it hard to produce a consistent supply of coffee.
Yes, yes. Prior to that, we've had pretty consistent production figures coming out from Indonesia,
Right.
you know.
So I understand why the spike in prices here. But if production has been pretty consistent across the years, why are we still seeing a persistent price increase? Only one way to find out. I'm heading to the source, Lampung. This province on the southern tip of the Indonesian island of Sumatra is one of the biggest Robusta producing regions. Now, if you remember, Robusta is the kind of coffee we find in our hawker centers and coffee shops. It's a 5-hour drive from the airport in South Lampung to this remote farming area.
It seems like almost every other house is drying coffee out in their front yard.
I have gotten in touch with a second-generation coffee farmer.
Let's meet the boss, Pak Kirno.
Iya benar.
Hello, Pak.
Ya. Kita langsung ke kebun aja.
To coffee farm?
Iya, oke.
Yeah?
siap, siap.
Oh, it's hot. Panas.
Panas.
Lucky I brought my cap.
Banyak rumput.
This one?
Oh,
Oh. Coffee trees.
iya.
Oh. How big is this farm?
Seluas 2 hektar.
So all this?
Dari ujung sana sampai mentok sungai sana bawahnya, sana sampai ujung itu
How many trees?
jumlah pohonnya sekitar 5.000-an.
5,000. Oh.
Kerno's place is the size of about 2.5 football fields. This is considered a small farm, which is typical of most coffee plantations in Indonesia.
Are there workers on the farm?
Saat ini kita kan mau masukin musim panen nih. Kita positif ngambil tenaga, kita ngambil tetangga aja. Tapi kalau musim kita gede, itu nggak akan mencukupi untuk ngambil kopi. Kita harus mendatangkan orang dari luar daerah kita. Kalau nggak musim panen kita sendiri, kita untuk nyemprot, untuk membersihkan rumput pakai cangkul, pakai koret, gitu kita sendiri.
Why don't you hire full-time workers to help you?
Kalau kita ngambil setahun full untuk nyari tenaga kerja, kita nggak sesuai dengan penghasilan kita. Akhir tahun kita akan defisit gitu. Untuk pengelolaan kebun kita. Kita ngambil kopinya di atas, kebun kita di atas.
Oh,
oke.
up there.
Ayo.
Ayo.
Fruit produced by the coffee trees are known as coffee cherries, and they are harvested only 3 times a year. Luckily for me, I'm here in June, and it's harvesting time right here in Lampung. Well, I guess I can't just stand around without pitching in, right?
Jadi ini step ya cara mengambil kopi yang baik. Kita ambil yang merah, yang matang. Nah, jadi untuk yang hijau seperti ini kita nunggu sampai setengah bulan lagi, nyusul bisa barusan merah.
I just gotta pluck the red ones, leave the green ones behind because they are not ripe yet. Bagus?
Bagus.
Okay.
Ya, sip.
Wow, this is gonna take a while. Imagine thousands of trees like that, plucking them one by one. Oops. Whew. This is pretty hard work. When you get your neighbors to come and help, how much do you pay them?
Satu hari sekitar 50.000. Kalau memang ada laki-lakinya kita ngasih rokok dengan snack biasanya.
And how much can these coffee cherries fetch?
3 tahun kemarin kita paling mentok harga 17.000. Alhamdulillah untuk harga sekarang ini bagus sekali, sampai 40.000 per kilogramnya.
So you must be quite rich now.
Kayak gimana? Kalau namanya petani kopi mau kaya, kayaknya susah. Income kita ya semakin berkurang. Kita tanamin pisang, kita tanamin cabai untuk nunjang kita per mingguan, per bulannya.
Kiano can earn more from his coffee beans than ever before, but yet he can't seem to survive on the price it fetches. I'm about to see for myself why.
Yang mendung mau hujan kita. Kita masuk aja.
Okay.
Tarik.
Indonesian Robusta coffee farmers can sell their cherries for about 20% more now compared to a year ago. But farmer Kiano's income has actually fallen.
Cara pengeringan kopi dari awalnya kan masih basah seperti ini. Nah, setelah kita jemur kena matahari, dia akan menghitam. Nah, setelah mengering, baru kita giling, barulah keluar kopi yang sebenarnya. Tarik.
Tarik.
Nah, ayo, terus.
You're selling the coffee for a much higher price, but you say you're still making less money. Why is that?
Jadi tahun lepas 3 ton kita. Kalau tahun ini paling banyak 1 ton. Kalau nggak nyampe, paling-paling 8 kintal itu.
And the rise in price can't make up for the drop in production?
Nggak bisa step. Kalau 3 tahun lalu kita bisa mencapai 30 jutaan kayak. Nah, sekarang ini coba dalam 1 ton, belum opah, belum produksi, dengan macam-macam. Sekitar bersih sekitar 15 jutaan.
Ini akan hujan?
Iya, ini
Ya?
kayak mendung mau hujan kita. Kita masuk aja.
Okay, masuk. Balik kampung.
Balik kampung.
I was told by Victor Ma, who heads the Singapore Coffee Association, that extreme weather has affected coffee production in the last year. And I am seeing now for myself how it affects 50-year-old Kiano and his family.
Tulek Lampung Barat.
Okay?
Belum.
into the frying pan.
Nah,
Ooh.
nanti biar kuning dulu.
It's not instant because it's tempeh, so it's temporary. Nasi?
Nasi.
Yeah. So you know, this is a typical meal in Pak Kien Also. It's very simple, just some vegetables and soup, some tempeh, and my favorite, some sambal. But you know what? After a long day working on the farm, this stuff really hits the spot.
Hujan mulai lebat terus ini. Setelah dia bunga, mulai jadi kopi kecil, cuaca hujan tuh sangat lebat. Dia akan rontok, busuk dia. Ya nggak akan jadi kopi, makanya nggak akan dapat hasil yang banyak. Ya jelas kita kalah dengan cuaca. Sangat sedih sekali. Kecamatan Sekinco, Wetenung, Air Hitam, Gedung Suryan, dan Kebon Tebu itu memang memburuk. Beberapa daerah itu juga ada namanya hujan es. Jadi itu juga mungkin sangat mempengaruhi dengan penghasilan kopi untuk Indonesia.
Sumatra was subject to frequent rain and occasional freak weather over the past 2 years, which disturbed coffee trees at its most critical period, the flowering stage.
Oke, Steve.
Oke.
Ini pantal dan selimutnya.
Alright, thank you.
Ini kamarnya. Selamat tidur dan selamat malam.
Okay, thank you. Terima kasih.
Ayo.
Beginning day 2, and I had a good night's rest. I was a little bit noisy. You can see this is my room window here, and yep. So pretty much all night.
Mari kita sarapan sebelum kita lanjutkan pekerjaan. Minum kopi. Dan ini pisang goreng.
Try one of these. Banana fritters.
I'm back on the farm to help Kierno with maintenance work. First off, applying herbicide.
Kasih contoh dulu. Nah. Oke? Nah,
Okay.
gantian. Stop. Jangan terlalu banyak untuk menyemprotnya. Sebab obatnya mahal. Hah?
Oh. So why do we need to spray this?
Kalau banyak rumput dia nggak akan subur, nggak akan buah kopinya.
We're off to a shop where most farmers in this area get their supplies from. I hope my generous use of herbicide hasn't caused Kierno to run out.
Mbak Depi mau cari obat herbisida yang paling murah. 3 liter 100.000. Kita ini kalau menggunakan obat yang mahal, kayaknya udah nggak terjangkau lagi dengan kopi yang kurang buahnya. Oke, yang Bapak gunakan ini yang biasa saya gunakan untuk pupuk kopi, Steve ya. Yang dulu pupuk ini mungkin cuma sekitar 200 dalam 50 kg. Untuk tahun ini 260. Jadi semua petani kalau pupuk sangat melejit mahal, mungkin dalam pemupukan kita mungkin dikurangi. Maka hasil produksi mungkin akan berkurang juga.
300.
The price of fertilizer has been volatile for more than 20 years, but it hit a peak in 2022 because the pandemic, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and other supply chain issues have tightened global supply. Farmers like Kierno are facing a difficult year, which does have some impact on my price of coffee. But 2022 saw a bumper harvest of almost 795,000 tons in Indonesia, the highest in 40 years. Shouldn't this have moderated the price? I'm in a village in the Dairy Regency area of North Sumatra, another major coffee production region. But
My producer and I are finding it hard to spot any coffee plantations. Wow, look at how narrow this. Swing the camera around and you can see that we're literally squeezing through the bushes. It's always a bit of a journey getting into the farms.
I'm meeting with Hermina, a coffee farmer for 30 years.
Where are the coffee trees?
Pohon kopinya ada di belakang sebagai pagar. Dulunya memang kopi di sini semua, tapi udah banyak jeruknya sekarang.
So now you're an orange farmer?
Udah ada sekitar 10 tahun, 8 tahun gitulah semenjak nanam jeruk, bongkar kopinya. Kalau dulu ada 1.500 gitu. Kalau sekarang tinggal 400-an.
So why did you decide to grow more oranges instead of coffee?
Soalnya kopi ini cara kelolanya agak lumayan ribet dia. Begitu kita kutip, digiling lagi, besoknya harus dicuci lagi, terus dijemur. Jadi ada banyak makan waktu, Pak. Lagian cara ngutipnya satu orang udah 10 kilo. Kalau jeruk ini, kalau musim panen besar dia dapat 500 kilo per orang. Kalau jeruk begitu langsung dikutip, langsung jadi uang dia. Hama sekarang udah banyak kali, tusuk jarum namanya.
Increases in temperature around the world have led to a proliferation of coffee berry borers. They become more fertile and also drill deeper into coffee cherries, hence the name. They are most damaging to commercial coffee. Indonesia is one of the first countries to start growing coffee commercially. But today it's trailing behind producers like Brazil, Vietnam and Colombia. Even though production has been on the rise, the average yield per hectare is still much lower than other coffee-producing countries. The low productivity and lack of innovation of small-scale farmers could be to blame. So over the years, several NGOs have stepped in to help farmers improve their farming methods. Alfredo Nangulan from Petrasa is one of them.
Hi.
Hai Steve. Kalau kita mau melihat perkebunan kopi, kita harus melalui pantauan udara.
Okay.
Ini dulunya, yang kita lihat sekarang ini adalah perkebunan kopi. Tapi sekarang, kebanyakan sudah banyak menanam jeruk. 8 tahun lalu itu hampir 30%. Tapi untuk di tahun ini, dia sudah mencapai 60% petani Tanjung Beringin menanam pohon jeruk. Dairy sendiri penurunan produksi kopinya hampir di angka 5-7% per tahunnya. Dan tanah di dairy itu sudah semakin gersang akibat kimia. Dimulai dari revolusi hijau yang dibuat Pak Soeharto.
The Green Revolution in Indonesia started in the 1970s with a mission to grow high-yielding varieties of rice. So it introduced chemical fertilizers and synthetic pesticides. By 1984, Indonesia managed to achieve rice self-sufficiency. But there is a downside to it. The impact of the excessive usage of these chemicals is still felt now.
Dikarenakan penggunaan kimia yang berlebihan, kandungan tanah ini semakin menurun seperti mikroba, cacingnya. Cacing itu sangat diperlukan untuk pertumbuhan satu tanaman dan mikroba-mikroba yang tanah itu menyuburkan tanaman kopi atau tanaman jeruk.
According to Indonesia's Ministry of Agriculture, in 2014, coffee yield actually fell by almost 8% compared to the peak of 2008, which could explain why prices started increasing then. But just when I feel like it's a losing battle for coffee production in Indonesia,
Sprinkle it about. We'll just keep going this way.
in comes Lisa Matthews. She owns a thriving coffee farm in Simalungun, North Sumatra. I reached out to her to find out how she's managed to keep her coffee yield consistent. So here I am on my first lesson. making compost, which is organic fertilizer.
So to speed up decomposition, there's a microorganism that we add. It's called a compost tea.
Apart from the compost tea, all the ingredients came from Lisa's farm.
The cut grass contains carbon and nitrogen and phosphorus. This is the nutrients for the coffee crop.
So apart from grass, what else goes into this compost?
Byproducts from the coffee production, the coffee cherry and the skin from the coffee beans. It contains the macronutrient, the nitrogen, the phosphorus, and the potassium. It's high in mineral content. The copper, the zinc, they're in here.
All in here.
By having all of the elements in the compost provided by us from our farm, we know what's in it, and we can control the microbiology in it. When you buy synthetic fertilizer, you're relying on what's printed on the outside of the bag to be what's on the inside of the bag. But a lot of farmers have found out that sometimes the fillers that they add in these fertilizer bags can be detrimental to the crop. They can introduce the wrong kind of bacteria.
How much do you think you're saving by using byproducts from your own farm for the compost?
Probably 30% annually if you're talking about synthetic fertilizer rather than organic fertilizer.
Wow.
Lisa is only one farmer, but she is hoping her methods will inspire local farmers, especially if it also results in cost savings for them. A lot more needs to be done, however, to boost coffee production back to its peak. Remember, Indonesia had a bumper harvest in 2022. What happened? And if supply issues aren't the reason, why is my cuppa costing more?
We have no choice because we have to add in all these ingredients to maintain the flavors of our traditional coffee.